for you.
Lovely, very nice.
I'll go around the back here.
Okay.
You can chill. Take what you want. Don't be shy.
Very nice, thank you very much.
Yeah. What are you into? You a big foodie or what?
I am indeed, actually. I mean, I'm someone that I love just going to restaurants. I love eating out. It's always family time, isn't it? It's always family and friend time. That's when you get moments to yourself, you know. And you know what it's like. If you're working all the time, you want those moments.
Yeah, no, definitely. I actually like cooking. I don't probably do it enough. My missus will probably say you don't cook enough.
Yeah.
I actually love cooking for people.
Mate, it's the most therapeutic thing you can do.
Why do you set the scene? Because I set my scene, the kids know, they walk in and go, Dad's cooking. The moment they walk in and hear reggae music and they see a bottle of red wine on the side.
Yeah, mine's always, weirdly, mine's Ray Charles. I put that on every time I cook. Literally, my family know they're coming around for dinner if I'm playing Ray Charles. But
that is mad, that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's always how it is.
Oh, I love it. So family's obviously a big thing for you.
Yeah, big time.
You close to the family?
Mate,
I see you and your dad on TV all the time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I always think that for me, being able to... Family is the most important thing in my life, and it's one of the reasons why, you know, my mates always take the mick out of me, because they're just like, everything I do in my career or whatever always relates back to my family. I remember at one point I was so fixated on, I was just like, I have to earn as much money as possible so that my kids get as much opportunity as possible, and that's how I kind of carried it. But I think the more I've been able to get a little bit older and see what my parents have done, and I kind of look at it and I think about it and I go, hang on a minute, my dad, you know, made his way and all those types of things. But realistically, the things that I took from him were just the lessons and not anything to do with money. So that's, I guess, it was a mild epiphany at my age, but...
No, but it's true though. It's about time spent, and it's about staying connected.
Yeah.
No, it is true. So in terms of when you've grown up, what was the food of choice for you in your house?
Food of choice, anything that my dad didn't cook. He's crap. I once saw my dad put peanut butter in spaghetti bolognese.
No way.
No joke. Because he thought it was when like chicken satay was like really coming into fruition. And he was like, yeah, peanut butter, they're putting it on everything now. But do you know what? Cooking was a massive kind of reason that got me into opening up. Because when I was growing up, we used to have kind of like the same setup, but we used to have that kitchen island. You used to have a kitchen island, and then there would be the hob here. And my mum always used to say to me, you don't have to do your homework as long as I sit here and I watch how you cook and all this stuff, and you know, I was learning. But what I was realising as well is that because I was watching my mum cook, and you know, as we're making stuff together, she would be asking me questions, being like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? This, etc. How is this person getting on? And all of a sudden, I kind of built this different type of relationship with my mum that I don't necessarily have with my dad. And so it was a massive kind of thing for me in terms of, I used to invite other friends over that I thought would be in, like, say one of my mates broke up with his girlfriend. I remember saying to my mum, being like, I'm going to invite Thingy around for dinner. Can you do that thing where you make him sit?
A little therapy session.
Yeah.
I like that. So you've always been into kind of the mind, and have you known yourself from an early age?
No, not at all. I think you're constantly, you know, discovering who you are. I've always been fascinated by, you know, what your brain can do. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, we were speaking a minute ago about it, that in the last kind of two years, you know, I lost one of my best friends to suicide, and I've kind of been launched into the world of suicide and mental health. I didn't necessarily want to be here, and I don't want to be talking about it, but you've got a reason, and it's important, you know, and you think about it, and you go, well, you might as well. And I was always fortunate, as I say, with my mum being so open, and she was always wanting me to tell her how I was feeling. You know, when I was 15 years old, she took me to a doctor because everything was low. I used to feel like I'd wake up with a cloud over my head. I would need something to pick me up before I could ever get to that level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which isn't normal. You should be able to wake up and see it as a new day. So, you know, at 15, as parents kind of back then, as a parent back then, for them to be able to say, your son needs to go on anti-depressants was, you know, Nowadays, it's a bit more normal, but
Yeah.
you know, what, 15 years ago, it wasn't.
Yeah, announcing that to you, or being there with your parents when that's announced to you that you've got to go on tablets or something, that must be like quite a daunting experience as well.
Yeah, it was daunting, but again, I always say the luckiest thing in my life is my family, because my mum and dad never made it daunting for me. I knew that no matter what in my life, if I was, you know, growing up, if I was gay, if I was straight, if I had a girlfriend that they didn't like, all of those types of things, I always knew they were there to support me, and that was it. You know, it's the same with, as I say, it's the same with sexuality. I grew up with my godfather being one of the biggest gay icons in the world. It was never a thing. It's the same how kind of it's been with racism. You know, I remember, like, my godmother is Pepsi from Pepsi and Shirley, right?
Yeah. I used to watch them on Top of the Pops.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you know, I remember having to have my mum explain to me what racism is and what homophobia is.
Saw it.
Well, because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why is someone saying that to Pepsi? Why would someone say that to George? It never used to make sense. So it's always been a very open family. Yeah.
It shows you that them type of things are taught, and you're not born like that. They're taught.
No.
But I want to take you back and lighten the mood a little bit. So what job, before you became this super presenter and the guy, jack of all trades, does everything on TV, you turn it on, you're there. Before you became that guy, what other jobs was you doing?
So when I was actually like 15, 16, I got a job with Universal Music.
Wow.
Which was basically, I became their bitch, for lack of a better word. I would be writing some songs. I'd be taking parts in like different like projects that they would have. I've played bass for artists that I don't think they know. Ollie Murs being one. The other one being I once played for Peter Andre at Rochester Castle.
Wow.
So it was nuts. It was like 3 years of my life where you know I didn't do A levels. I didn't do uni or anything like that. But all of a sudden I was in meetings at like 16 with heads of labels and things like that. And that as an education was amazing.
How the hell did you get in that room? Like, everyone will be sitting at home going, okay, using a Universal in big meetings at 16.
Yeah, so I got introduced to, literally, someone hit me up on Facebook, like one of these guys, he was like, it was like this American dude, he was like, really like your look, we saw you in some newspaper, because I'd done some show with my dad. And they were like, oh, can you come? What's your link to music? Do you have any link to music? So I went in there and met them, and then I was like, yeah, I play instruments, I do this, and that, and it just kind of bled out from there really quickly. It's pure luck. Like at the end of the day, you know, I mean, I was fortunate enough to know how to play instruments and be able to write a couple of songs or whatever. Yeah. But it was. I won't lie. At the end, it was tough. Like 18, 19. You're around things that you shouldn't necessarily be around at that age, and you're living a lifestyle that you shouldn't necessarily be living.
Maybe like a fast party lifestyle, you mean?
Oh my God, yeah. But the people around you as well. You know, I was the guy that I was with every day used to inject himself with snake venom every day.
Wow.
And I was 16.
Jesus.
But you know, and he would claim it was in a medicinal way. It was all things that my mum, you know, at the time being like, is this right for him? You know. But at 19, it all kind of ended quite abruptly. I fell out of it. I didn't want to be there anymore, and it all just ended. And I remember being in this situation where I was like, "Oh my God, like what am I going to do in my life? Like I've wasted like so much time." And I was like, "I just want a normal job. I don't want anything to do with, you know, I've grown up as a celebrity kid, and then I've tried to do something that's kind of in that world, and it's failed." So I did my level 2 and level 3 gym stuff. I was like, yeah, I work in a gym. I was like, it'll be great.
PT, right?
Yeah, I was like, it'll be great. It'll be everything I wanted. Turns out you're literally just cleaning toilets. And I remember very, very vividly just sat in the store cupboard, like just eating my dinner like that. And the store cupboard was like this big, right? And I was just like, I can't do this. Wow. I was like, I really can't do this. And I saved up, got myself a camera. And I wanted nothing else, but you know. And at this point, I was at my lowest. And my mum just said to me, she was like, "What's the thing you love more than anything?" And I was just like, "Football." I was like, "All I love is football."
He's an Arsenal fan.
So I love good football. She was like, "Well, why don't you work for, you know, Sky Sports or BBC or whatever?" I was like, "I don't know anyone." She was like, "Well, make the job." And so I made a version of Soccer AM in my bedroom.
Wow.
And just used to present this kind of show.
I need to see this.
Yeah, it was great, man. Like, it was great. It was called Pitch Invasion TV. It's still on YouTube. And like, it would be just like, I would present this show. And then kind of after that, quite quickly, it was right at the boom of that YouTube thing. And a couple of other companies like Copper 90, Football Daily, they started like reaching out, just saying, would you present this content for us? And it kind of just spiraled. Then I worked with Copper 90. And I would kind of like be half cameraman for them, but where I would film some other stuff for them just to get some extra cash, and then present some other bits. And I remember they all went to the World Cup in Brazil. Yeah, was that 2016?
I was there. I commented my first commentary.
That's it. There you go. So that was it.
We were on the same path.
Yeah, same path. Yeah. So it was 2016 World Cup, and I remember going, "Please let me come. Like, I will work on any capacity, whatever." Wow. And they were like, "There's no flights." And I was like, "Shit." All right. So I was just like, I can't do it. I was like, I've got to do something. I'm not going to get left behind whilst everyone's working out there. And then when they left, I was like, I've got this idea. I didn't have the idea. I was like, I've got this idea. It's called Man versus Football. Did not know what it was at the time. And I was like, I'm going to go round to every bar in London that is home to a different nationality that's in the World Cup. So say, for instance, if Korea were playing, I'd have to find a Korean bar and watch the game in each of these things.
Well, I like that. And
film it via GoPro, edit it, chop it myself, all this jazz, for free.
Yeah.
I was just like, I just needed to do it. So I ended up doing this job. This is going somewhere, by the way.
I'm thinking, where are we going?
I ended up doing this job, right? And I kept going into a couple of these bars. One of the bars that I went in was this Belgian place. We were watching Belgium play, all this type of jazz. And I noticed this boy, kind of similar age to me. He kept kind of like popping up in all these bars and places that I'd seen, that I'd been to. And so I went over to him and I was just like, who are you? What are you doing? Like, are you doing the same thing as me? And he was like, nah, I work for LBC and I'm trying to get like sound bites of people, trying to get sound bites of people, you know, like fans. And I was like, cool, how many you got so far? And he was a bit nervous, like, not really nice boy, but he was a bit shy. And he was like, oh, I haven't got any yet. And I was just like, well, do you want a beer? He goes, oh, well, I should probably get this done. I was like, well, just give me that. And so I just took his dictaphone off him. I said, went around 2 minutes. I was like, bang, 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 bang. Got all done for him. And I came back. I was like, there you go, let's have a beer. And then sometimes, if there weren't fans, I may have done an impression of him.
By the way, this guy, he does really good impressions. Yeah. He's actually got. What? Can we just do one quickly now, just to
If you want me to do the Rio impression, it's going to cost a different thing. Do you know what I mean? They're going to start having to pay double. Do you know? That's it. It's a big man thing. That's it.
Wait, my kids see that, yeah? Seriously, my kids see this, yeah, and they go nuts. They go, Dad, have you heard him?
It's so good.
I was like, no, brilliant. Right, let's go next door, man.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Take a seat, man. Oh,
lovely.
I've eaten most of mine.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I ended up just, you know, doing silly impressions, and then this kid was like, okay, yeah, cheers. Kind of left him for like a couple of weeks. All of a sudden, I get a call up, and Capital are asking me to go in, and I was like, Capital, how's that come about? I had no idea. And then I went in, did a couple of things for Capital, like just run around, you know, chat to people on the street. All of a sudden, the boss calls me and he's like, I want to offer you a show. And I was like, right. He goes, do you know how I know who you are? I was like, no idea. He goes, you met my son.
No way.
In a bar, and you were doing impressions on a thing. So it just goes to show, sometimes approaching people in the right way can get you somewhere. Because if I'd never done that.
Being good will get you opportunities.
Yeah, man.
Being nice.
Yeah.
Goes a long way.
You know, it's that classic thing. You know, my parents always say is, you know, when I used to get so upset when people used to say to me, oh, you're just really lucky. But again, at the same time, my mum always defines luck as when preparation meets opportunity. You know, and
Sanjeev. I interviewed Sanjeev.
Yeah.
Comedian.
Did he say the same thing?
He said exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Is that a quote from someone?
Probably, it must be. It's a lovely thing to know.
And it's a great quote as well.
But it's so true. You know, it's the same with you. There would have been moments in your career where, say if you've got a trial somewhere, people could say, oh, you were so lucky to get that trial at that time. No, you prepared. You trained your whole life for that moment. That's when it happened.
Yeah, I agree. And if you ain't prepared, you will fail.
100%.
No matter what, you have to be prepared for them type of things. I totally agree. So looking at your life, and you're obviously doing ever so well now, and I see all the stuff you're doing in mental health, and you've almost become the face of it, maybe by accident.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that now your purpose in life? It seems to me you're very passionate about it.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have something. I love my job and I love what I do. I really, really, really do. Fame isn't a thing for me, 100%. I don't. It doesn't bother me. I've been able to see it at different levels. You know, whether that be my parents, or experience it how I've experienced it. But also, you know, as I mentioned with my godfather, it's like I've seen it at levels where people shut down airports to let you walk through. And what you find is that the further up you go that scale, the less happy you are, and the less understanding you have of who you are and what you want in life.
Must be a nice feeling though to shut an airport.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong.
Bowl through the airport.
Don't get me wrong. Every now and again, definitely. But I think it's just one of. But again, it's, you know, George was someone that, you know, knew his values, and he was very lucky to know his values. But I think that when you see it in that way, it's, what am I really doing this for? You know, I question that all the time. Why am I doing my job? You know, and what can I do for my job that makes me actually feel like I'm making some form of difference? And as I mentioned earlier on, used to think it was about money to give my kids the opportunity. Now I realise I don't really care about giving money to my kids. It's what I teach them. So if I can do something in terms of using my platform or whatever to show just my experience on mental health, not tell anyone how to live their life, just literally share my thing, then, you know, in the same way, do you know what? In the same way, I hadn't cried watching a doc as much as I did watching yours.
Oh wow!
Because I thought what you did in that documentary was so influential for a lot of men, and that impact that you had on widowers and widows was unreal. And it's a similar thing that I wanted to achieve when I was doing my doc. I just wanted to tell my story. You know, you weren't telling people how to live; you were just telling your story. And I think that's so much more of an impact.
I agree, man. It's, you know, what we set out with that, and I'm sure similar to you. You're not setting out to push it down people's throat and say, this is how you do it, this is what you got to do. It's almost just unloading your experience is the influence. Yeah. You know what I mean?
100%. That's it, you know. And that's what I was talking to you about my book that's coming out. And that is literally what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to show the different parts, moments in my life and why they affect the mentality that I have now. You know, whether that be, you know, how I was, you know, how I used to approach school and how I used to see school. You know, I always think about, whenever I think about school now, I think that people, when they're older, we all look at school and kids that are there saying, this is the best part of your life. School is the easiest part of your life. But realistically, I think back to it, I hated school.
Most pressure. It's so traumatic.
Like, and that trauma is unfortunately what leads to people later on in life having mental problems and having mental struggles. Validate your kids, make them know that, hang on a minute, I understand you're going through some really tough things and I'm here for you. Do you know what I mean? It's that thing of, we're constantly told life should be easy right now. Do you know what I mean? And for some people it's not.
So just going on that, on extension of that, where you were just leading there, social media.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with social media?
My relationship with social media, I like to think is healthy. I think education is obviously key. If my kids, if they want social media when they're older, I'm absolutely fine with that. I think it's fine. But again, it's educating people that sometimes what you see isn't necessarily what the reality is. You know, unfortunately within men, a lot of things that you know, in terms of suicide. And it's a difficult subject to talk about, but in terms of suicide, the reality is most men, around 70%, kill themselves because they feel that they haven't achieved what they should have by that age. It's nothing to do with like...
What they shouldn't have achieved because of their own expectations of themselves, or what public perceives as success.
Either or. It can be, you know, I don't have that car that I thought I would have. I don't have that family that I should have had. The pay bracket, all of those things. And yes, sometimes people can look at social media and say, oh, well, you're to blame for that. You know, you're to blame for that. But realistically, it's all of us, because we are social media. We are those people that are online. We are the people that are posting those things. So we have to take responsibility. You know, that's what it is, you know, and it's blamed onto this entity that is social media, when realistically, it's us.
But I think maybe people with good networks and good family and friends, educated,
of course,
probably are afforded that more than people that don't have the influences and the right voices around them.
Definitely. But, on the flip side, I also see social media as a huge thing for positive. Huge thing for positive. Things like, even things, going back over the last couple of years, things like the Black Lives Matter campaign blew up on social media because of that. And the difference that campaign has made now, in society and will hopefully continue to make, is massive. People wouldn't necessarily have known about your doc or my doc if it hadn't been social media.
It connects people.
Exactly, it connects people. So it's about an understanding of what it is, I think, more so.
And obviously you've written a book that's coming out around mental health, around suicide. How do you maintain a good mental health, though?
Well, firstly, I think it's... I've always tried to change, over the last 2 years specifically, change the kind of focus onto the friends. Because I think too much is placed on the person that is struggling to step forward and talk. My worst thing, if I'm watching an advert or something like that, it's like, if you're struggling mentally, talk to someone, tell someone. The hardest thing to do...
To open up.
...is that. Therefore, you have to take responsibility as a friend to that person or a teammate to that person to say, tell me what's really happening. And if they give you that answer of, nothing, don't take that as a no. Don't take that risk, is what I'm trying to say. It's like, I have been around someone that seemed to be the happiest person you would ever meet. Genuinely, out of all my friends. Happiest, loudest, wants to go out all the time, wants to do this, that, chats to anyone, confident, got girlfriends, etc. And he killed himself. And how would I have ever known that? The only way I would have known it is to say, do you know what? I'm going to make it my responsibility to know exactly what's going on in my friends' lives. And sometimes it is difficult. And there's little tricks that you can use. I remember I met a group of lads who were 16, and when they were 14, they lost their friend. And I said, how do you deal with it now? And they say, we have a 2 OK rule. At the beginning of a conversation, we say, you okay? And then we get on with it. And then right at the end, we bring that question back and make sure we ask it again. Because the thing is that us now in society, you think, in a conversation, the bit that gets left behind is, how are you? You're right. Yeah. If you realistically think about how important that question is.
Do you know in the workplace that never comes up?
No.
The are you okay? How are you doing?
Yeah.
You never really ask a work colleague that, like, especially that in a changing room. And I noticed that when we were doing the filming, I've been filming a show that's coming out soon. That's one of the main things, that if you've got problems in your life, no one ever knows. It's all hidden under the carpet. You go in and just play like everything's happy, hunky-dory. And that's probably the worst thing you can do.
But also, you've got to think about, it's also about the clubs being able to take responsibility. They're taking lads from a young age, and they're, trying to help them fulfill a dream. And when that dream ends, for millions that don't make it as a footballer, what are the clubs doing to be able to help those people? What's the league being able to do to help those people? And fair play, the Premier League are getting better at those types of things, but there's just so much work to be done in a lot younger. I'm sick and tired of mental health only being introduced to young men around the age of 16, which is when I believe it's too late. You've got kids now that are in school that are taking their own lives, and they're 12.
With no help.
No.
So just going away from that subject, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given that you carry out in your life as much as you can?
I think, I mean, in my job, it's always, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Ask the question that you want to ask, and if someone doesn't like it, apologise. No, I think the best bit of advice, and it's always what my dad taught me, to be honest, and it's always the bit of my dad that I've always been so respectful of, is always that thing of, if you are having a conversation with someone, and if there's a disagreement in anything, this can be a disagreement on the pitch, or this can be a disagreement, about mental health subjects, etc. Validating that other person is the most important thing. Validating other human beings is what keeps people happy. Because I can still say, if I don't agree with what you're saying, or if you've offended me, or if I've offended you, I will then say, I'm so sorry about how I've made you feel. Do you know what I mean? Even if I don't agree with it, it's understanding that people have their feelings, and no one can change those feelings other than themselves. And it does come a lot of the time into mental health. But it is that thing of, validation of someone else, whether that be being able to say sorry in an argument that you still don't agree with.
Hard-headed.
Yeah, but it's knowing that, okay, you're saying that, and you are offended by that, but I'm sorry that you feel like that. It's always, if I hear someone say, I'm so sorry that you feel like that, then I feel like, okay, you've understood that despite your argument, you understand.
That's nice, I like that. Thinking of others as well is important in life. You mentioned your mum and your dad so much.
Yeah.
When I hear you speak anywhere on TV or on radio, even with you being with you now, who would be the most influential person in your life right now?
I'd say probably, I'd still say my dad. And I've said it so many times. My dad's still my hero. Like, that's a fact. And I'm an Arsenal fan. I could have Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, but no, and it's that thing of so many people, would feel this pressure if they're the son of a celebrity to shy away from it or to not want to chat about it. I know my cousin, when he first started getting his proper job, he dropped his surname because he didn't want people thinking, oh, Kemp, this, that.
Wow.
I want my kids to be able to look at me and be proud of me, but how proud I am of my dad is unbelievable. That's someone that, at 16 left, went in one of the biggest bands in the world, and, performed at Live Aid, and, had #1 records, and then left that, went into acting, but then all of a sudden was hit with 2 brain tumours and basically had that whole life taken away from them for 5 years. And through his connection as well as love with my mum, sustaining that relationship, then coming back out of it, being able to go and do a career. And the most important thing as well is that every time I ever meet anyone, whenever they talk about my dad, is how nice he is. Being able to maintain that in this industry and through the career that he's had is unheard of. And so, he'll always be my inspiration. He'll always be my absolute hero, for that reason.
That's beautiful, man. You know what? It's when you've got a hero like that, like my mum and my dad were like that for me. They were different, but they had something that I used to look at, and I'm just even now in awe of. Do you know what I mean? My dad's selflessness, my mum's willingness to help other people, community driven, etc., and caring and loving aspects. But you do need that. Do you know what? I'm going to shift and to finish the interview. I know you're the busy man. What is next for you? Because you do so much, and you know what? What really impresses me about you is that you, wherever you put your hand to, you just look comfortable. I mean, whether it's going into your feelings, whether it's being vulnerable.
It's all a lie.
You've got a facade you put on, but you look comfortable. But what is next for you? Have you got dreams? Have you got aspirations?
Yeah, but it's really like, I always find if I have dreams and aspirations, as you say there, not to make this into a long-winded answer, but if I have that in my head, I feel like sometimes when those things don't happen, which is a big reality, it feels like a setback. I've always said this, and I'd want my kids to follow this in terms of, people, whenever they say, what's your plan for the next 5 years? What do you want to do? I'd rather look at where I am right now and look back 5 years and say the things that I've achieved over the last 5 years. 5 years ago, do I think I would have been sat here talking to you? No. 5 years ago, I thought it would take me 10 years to be able to get the breakfast show on Capital. I'd rather look back and feel like I'm doing the right thing and I'm trusting in myself to make the right decisions. Opportunities might come up tomorrow. Your life can literally change like that. And that's again, one of the things that when we talk about things like suicide and men not feeling where they should be in their life, that's where it hits me the hardest, because life can change for the better like that.
You know, you might meet one person and that can change your life.
Yeah. Well, you met the geezer in the pub.
Precisely.
Do you know what I mean?
Precisely. And
bought him a drink.
Exactly. But that's it. But you know, like things like that. And so I never really looked forward. Like, yeah, you know, I want to be able to, you
provide
know,
for
help
your family.
out. Yeah, provide for my family. You know, family is my number one thing. But you know, I want to be able to do more stuff with Joe's Buddy Line, our mental health charity. I want to achieve stuff with that. But in the other stuff, I'd rather look back and go, you've done all right. Well done.
Well, you have.
Thanks,
Top
man.
man. Good to see you, man.
Cheers, pal.
All right.